My mom let the girl who poisoned me move into our house, ignored every cry for help, and believed her over me. So I collected evidence for weeks and got her shipped off to a farm with no internet as payback. I was 12 years old when I started getting bullied by Vanessa. It started small, just some hair pulling here, some passive aggression there, but like with all bullying, it escalated. Fast. Within just 2 weeks, she was pouring toilet water into my school bag when I wasn't looking, and one time she even cut up my class project the same day it was due. But when I went home to tell my mom, she didn't care. She probably just has a lot going on right now, honey. How would you know? I responded. She went silent and stared at the ground for 30 seconds before replying. Apparently, my mom was best friends with Vanessa's mom, and her parents had just divorced. You and dad have been divorced for 5 years. You don't see me bullying anyone. I could tell that made my mom sad, but I was too stubborn to apologize. So I just stomped to my room and slammed the door closed. I figured things would improve after that. Spoiler alert, they didn't. Things only got worse. I was in gym class when I felt this unbearable need to go to the bathroom. I proceeded to spend the next hour pooping my brains out before going home early. Turns out Vanessa had put laxatives in my sandwich. When I got home, I expected my mom to give me a huge hug and make me some tea. So when I rang my doorbell and Vanessa was the one to open it, I was so shocked my eyes nearly popped out of my head. My mom instantly pulled me aside and told me her mom was sent to a healing center for people who are very sick. It was rehab. I didn't say anything, just cried until my face swelled up like a balloon. My mom told me it was just for a month. So with my face buried in her chest as she hugged me, I gently nodded. The first day was actually pretty good. Vanessa was quiet and upset, meaning no antics. Even in school, Vanessa was spending so much time crying in the bathroom that she didn't even have time to bully me anymore. Life was pretty sweet TBH, until one day, when I told Vanessa she couldn't borrow a top. At first, she pretended to act all sweet and understanding. Oh, no problem. I understand. Sisterhood. She literally said dying sisterhood out loud. But when I got home, my entire room was turned upside down. My trash bags were ripped open and poured everywhere. My bed frame was broken. My clothes were scattered everywhere. The kitty litter had been poured out onto my pillows. It literally looked like a thief had broken in or something. I couldn't help but scream. My mom ran up the stairs and had the exact same expression on her face. Meanwhile, Vanessa just stood beside us, laughing. My mom turned to face her, with both her fists clenched. I felt a chaotic excitement pump through my veins. Honey, I know things are hard right now, but you should really leave Lily alone, she said with a gentle tone. My face contorted like I had just swallowed a lemon whole. Vanessa ended up apologizing. She claimed an unwavering anger had taken over because of her mom being in rehab. I rolled my eyes as she recited the same sob story for the third time, but with no parental protection. I was pretty scared to say no to her after that, and she knew it too. Every day she'd wear my clothes, never bring them to the laundry room, and cut up my tops to make them look cropped. This caused a lot of resentment, so when she asked me to do her homework, I said no, because she was days behind, and I was extremely busy studying for the exams. Are you effing serious? My mom is the one in rehab right now. I sighed and tried to go back to whatever I was doing, but she kept going. You and your mom are so exhausting. If I was your dad, I would have abandoned you too. My mouth went completely dry. I turned to look at her with tunnel vision. My eyes narrowed. What? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. She stood there awkwardly for a few seconds, before resorting to throwing one of my textbooks at me. That's when I heard the footsteps. My mom sprinted up the stairs. Lily, I told you Vanessa is going through something. Be nice. And somehow, the entire thing was twisted to make Vanessa seem like an angel. Again, both of them teamed up on me saying I need to prioritize Vanessa's happiness and think of others. So I turned to face Vanessa and gave her a hug. A can't breathe, tight, I love you so much type of hug. And I could feel her face move into a grin. But she didn't realize I was smirking back. Because my mom may have been fooled, but I wasn't. And rehab or not, my life had become hell. And it was time for Vanessa to pay the price. My first move was gathering evidence. I snuck into the guest room while Vanessa was in the shower and found her phone. She didn't even have a password on it. I scrolled through her texts with her friends where she bragged about all the stuff she'd done to me. I took pictures of everything with my old iPod. Then I found something even better. She had a diary under her mattress where she wrote about how much she hated me and my mom, and how she was purposely trying to make my life miserable. I spent half the night copying the worst pages and putting them in a folder under my bed. I also set up my old baby monitor camera in my room, hidden on my bookshelf. If she tried to trash my room again, I'd have proof. This morning at breakfast, Vanessa was extra nice to my mom, helping with the dishes and everything. But when my mom went to take a shower, Vanessa leaned across the table and whispered, "I'm going to make you wish you were never born." I just smiled and ate my cereal. Little does she know, I'm already 3 steps ahead of her. I'm done being the victim in this story. My mom might not believe me yet, but she will. I have 26 more days until Vanessa's mom gets out of rehab, and I plan to use every single one of them. I know what you're thinking. I'm just a 12-year-old kid. What can I possibly do against someone as manipulative as Vanessa? But that's the thing about being underestimated. No one sees you coming until it's too late. Today at school, I started phase 1 of my plan. I asked my English teacher, Ms. Rivera, if I could talk to her after class. She's always been nice to me, and I had a feeling she might actually listen. I showed her some of the text messages Vanessa sent her friends about putting laxatives in my food. Ms. Rivera's face got all serious, and she immediately called the guidance counselor. I spent lunch period in the counselor's office explaining everything that's been happening, both at school and at home. The counselor, Mr. Garcia, took a lot of notes and said he'd be calling my mom tomorrow for a meeting. I made him promise not to tell Vanessa. When I got home, Vanessa was already there, wearing another one of my shirts. She had cut the sleeves off this time. I just smiled and went to my room. I could tell it freaked her out that I wasn't upset. Good. Tonight, I'm going to start phase 2. I found Vanessa's mom's phone number in my mom's contact list. I'm going to call her at the rehab place tomorrow. My mom might not believe me about Vanessa, but maybe her own mom will. I know this is just the beginning of a long battle. Vanessa isn't going to go down without a fight, but neither am I. I've spent my whole life being the good girl, and where has that gotten me? Nowhere. It's time to fight fire with fire. I have 26 days to expose Vanessa for who she really is and get my life back. 26 days to make sure she never bullies me or anyone else again. 26 days to make my mom see the truth. Game on, Vanessa. Game on. The next morning, I woke up feeling oddly energized. It was like I was in a spy movie or something, except instead of fighting international terrorists, I was just trying to take down a 12-year-old psychopath who happened to be living in my house. I checked my hidden camera setup before leaving my room, still working perfectly. Vanessa was already at the kitchen table when I came down for breakfast, acting all sweet to my mom again. She'd made toast for everyone, probably poisoned mine, and was chatting about some TV show they both watched. I grabbed a granola bar from the pantry instead and stuffed it in my backpack. Not hungry, sweetie? My mom asked, looking concerned. I mumbled something about eating later and headed for the door. I didn't miss the little smirk Vanessa gave me behind my mom's back. Whatever, let her think she's winning. At school, I met up with Jessica by our lockers. Jessica's been my best friend since kindergarten, and she's the only person who knows the full extent of my plan. She was wearing this bright yellow sweater that made her look like a walking sunshine, which was kind of perfect because she's always been the optimistic one between us. Did you call the rehab place yet? She whispered as we walked to first period. I shook my head. Doing it this afternoon. I'm more worried about the meeting with Mr. Garcia and my mom. Just then, I spotted Vanessa down the hall with her friends. They were all huddled together, probably plotting something awful. When she saw me looking, she did this fake little wave and smile. I just stared back without reacting. Her smile faltered a bit, which felt like a tiny victory. First period was math, which normally I hate, but today I was too busy planning to care about fractions. Mr. Garcia had told me he scheduled a meeting with my mom for after school, and I was trying to figure out how to make sure Vanessa wasn't there for it. The last thing I needed was her twisting everything around again. During lunch, I sat with Jessica and our friend David. David's kind of a computer nerd, in a good way, and I was thinking he might be able to help me with some tech stuff for my plan. I was in the middle of explaining what I needed when I felt something cold and wet pouring down my back. I jumped up with a yelp. Vanessa was standing behind me with an oops expression, holding an empty juice bottle. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, she said in the fakest voice ever. I totally tripped. The back of my shirt was soaked with sticky apple juice. Some of it had even gotten in my hair. Everyone in the cafeteria was staring, and a few kids were laughing. I took a deep breath. Normally, I'd probably cry or run to the bathroom, but that was the old Lily. Instead, I just grabbed my napkin, dabbed at my shirt, and sat back down. It's fine, I said calmly. Accidents happen. The look of confusion on Vanessa's face was priceless. She'd clearly expected me to freak out. When I didn't, she just kind of stood there awkwardly before stomping back to her table. I turned to see David had recorded the whole thing on his phone. Evidence, he said with a grin, holding up his phone. After lunch, I snuck out to the bathroom and called Vanessa's mom from one of the stalls. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode out of my chest. When someone finally answered, I almost hung up. Cedar Springs Recovery Center. How may I direct your call? A woman's voice said. I asked for Vanessa's mom, Mrs. Peterson. There was a long pause, and then the woman told me that patients couldn't receive calls except during certain hours, but she could take a message. I left my name and number, saying it was urgent about Vanessa. I wasn't sure if Mrs. Peterson would call back, but it was worth a try. By the time the final bell rang, my juice-soaked shirt had dried into a stiff, uncomfortable mess. I headed straight to Mr. Garcia's office for our meeting with my mom. To my relief, she was already there, looking confused and a little worried. Lily? What's going on? Mr. Garcia said it was important. I took a deep breath and pulled out my folder of evidence. For the next 20 minutes, I showed them everything. The texts, the diary pages, even the video David had taken at lunch. Mr. Garcia's expression got more and more serious, while my mom's face went from confused to shocked, to something that looked almost like guilt. I had no idea it was this bad, she whispered, looking at a particularly nasty text where Vanessa bragged about destroying my science project. Why didn't you tell me? I tried, I said, trying not to sound too accusatory. You kept saying I needed to be more understanding because of her mom. My mom looked like she might cry. I'm so sorry, Lily. I thought you were just having normal girl drama. I never imagined she was doing all this. Mr. Garcia cleared his throat. Mrs. Parker, this is serious bullying behavior. If it were happening just at school, we would handle it with suspensions and counseling. But since Vanessa is currently living in your home, my mom nodded, her jaw set in a way I hadn't seen since the time a telemarketer tried to scam my aunt. I'll take care of it. Tonight. I felt a surge of relief so strong my knees actually wobbled. Finally, someone believed me. But when we got home, Vanessa wasn't there. My mom called her cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail. We waited for over an hour, my mom getting more and more worked up, before we heard a car in the driveway. I peeked out the window and felt my stomach drop. It was Mrs. Thompson, Vanessa's mom's best friend, and Vanessa was with her, looking like she'd been crying. They came inside, and Mrs. Thompson asked to speak to my mom alone. They went to the kitchen while Vanessa and I sat in awkward silence in the living room. She kept sniffling dramatically and giving me these little glances like she was trying to see if I was buying her act. I just stared at the TV, which wasn't even on. After what felt like forever, the adults came back. My mom looked conflicted. Lily, Vanessa's going to stay with Mrs. Thompson tonight, she said carefully. We'll talk more tomorrow. I couldn't believe it. But Mom, tomorrow, Lily, she said firmly. After they left, my mom tried to explain that Mrs. Thompson had already talked to Vanessa about everything, and she'd admitted to some poor choices, but claimed I was exaggerating a lot of it. Apparently, Vanessa had put on this whole big show about how sorry she was, and how she'd just been so upset about her mom. So you believe her again? I asked, my voice cracking. No, honey, I believe you, my mom said, pulling me into a hug. But Mrs. Thompson asked for one night to sort things out. Vanessa will be back tomorrow, and we're going to have a serious talk with both of you. I went to bed that night feeling uneasy. Sure, my mom believed me now, but Vanessa was slippery. She'd already started damage control with Mrs. Thompson. What else was she planning? The next day was Saturday, which meant no escape to school. I woke up late, around 10, and found my mom making pancakes downstairs. The doorbell rang just as I was pouring syrup on my stack. It was Mrs. Thompson again, with Vanessa hiding behind her. But something was different this time. Vanessa looked scared. Mrs. Thompson wasn't smiling either. "Come in," my mom said, her voice neutral. "We were just having breakfast." We all sat at the dining table in the world's most awkward pancake party. No one touched their food. Finally, Mrs. Thompson cleared her throat. "I owe you both an apology," she said, looking at me and my mom. "After I got home last night, I found some disturbing things on Vanessa's phone, things that confirm everything Lily has been saying." My heart did a little victory jump. Mrs. Thompson explained that she'd checked Vanessa's phone while she was in the shower and found not just the texts about me, but messages to her mom that had never been sent. Horrible things about how she was glad her mom was locked up so she could finally have some fun. Vanessa stared at her plate the whole time, her face red. When Mrs. Thompson finished, my mom turned to Vanessa. "Is this true?" she asked quietly. Vanessa didn't answer, just gave a tiny nod. "I've spoken with her mother this morning," Mrs. Thompson continued. "She's extremely upset. She wants Vanessa to come stay with me until she's out of rehab, but understands if that's not possible given everything that's happened." My mom looked at me, clearly asking what I wanted. For a second, I almost felt bad for Vanessa. Almost. "She can stay here," I said finally, "but there need to be rules." And that's how we ended up with the Vanessa rules. She had to stay out of my room completely. She had to ask permission before borrowing anything. She had to do extra chores to make up for the damage she'd caused. And most importantly, if she bullied me or anyone else even one more time, she'd be sent to stay with her grandmother in Michigan, who was apparently super strict and lived in the middle of nowhere. The next week was weird. Vanessa was like a different person. Quiet, polite, always doing what she was told. At school, she avoided me completely. When she saw me in the hallway, she'd turn and walk the other way. My friends thought it was hilarious, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was just biding her time. I was right. It happened during week 2 of her stay. I was sitting at my desk working on a history project when I heard a weird noise coming from the bathroom we shared. I paused my music and listened. It sounded like sniffling. Was Vanessa crying? I hesitated outside the bathroom door. Part of me thought it might be a trap, but what if she was actually upset? I knocked softly. "Vanessa, you okay?" The door opened a crack, and her tear-stained face appeared. She looked awful, like she'd been crying for hours. "My mom called," she whispered. "She's not coming back." "What do you mean?" I asked, confused. Vanessa pushed the door open wider and showed me her phone. There was a text from her mom that said she'd decided to extend her stay at the rehab place and then visit her sister in California for a while. "She's abandoning me," Vanessa said, her voice breaking, just like my dad did. For a moment, I actually felt sorry for her. I awkwardly patted her shoulder and told her it would be okay, that her mom probably just needed more time to get better. Vanessa nodded and thanked me for being nice, even after everything she'd done. I went back to my room feeling weirdly conflicted. Maybe Vanessa really was changing. Maybe she just needed someone to be kind to her. The next morning, I woke up feeling like death. My throat was on fire, my nose was completely stuffed, and my head felt like it was full of concrete. I had a raging fever too. When my mom came to check on me, she immediately called the doctor. "Must be that flu that's going around," she said, bringing me some tea and medicine. Vanessa had a touch of it last week, but it wasn't this bad. I spent the next 3 days in bed, missing school and feeling like garbage. Vanessa was actually pretty nice, bringing me soup and even letting me borrow her iPad to watch Netflix since mine was broken. By the 4th day, I was starting to feel human again when I got a text from Jessica. "Check Instagram now," it said, with about 50 exclamation points. I opened the app and nearly dropped my phone. Someone had made an account called Lily the Loser, with a profile picture of me sleeping with my mouth open, drooling. There were at least a dozen posts, all pictures of me from the last few days, looking awful with my red nose and messy hair, tissues scattered around my bed. The captions were even worse. "Lily's natural state, disgusting," and "This is why she has no friends except losers like Jessica." I felt sick, and not from the flu this time. There was only one person who could have taken those pictures, one person who'd been bringing me food and checking on me all week. I stormed out of my room, still in my pajamas, and found Vanessa in the kitchen with my mom. They were making cookies together like everything was normal. "You posted pictures of me online?" I yelled, shoving my phone in her face. Vanessa's eyes went wide. "What? No, I would never do that." My mom took my phone and scrolled through the account, her face getting darker with each swipe. "Vanessa, these were clearly taken inside our house, inside Lily's room." "It wasn't me," Vanessa insisted, tears forming in her eyes. "I swear, someone must have hacked my account or something." My mom looked skeptical. "Let me see your phone." I can't find it," Vanessa stammered. "I think I left it at school yesterday." I knew she was lying. I'd seen her on it that morning. But before I could say anything, the doorbell rang. My mom went to answer it, leaving us glaring at each other in the kitchen. "You're pathetic," I hissed. "I actually felt sorry for you yesterday." Vanessa's fake tears dried up instantly. "You should see what I'm posting tomorrow," she whispered, a nasty smile spreading across her face. "I got some really good ones when you were throwing up on Tuesday." I was about to lunge at her when I heard voices from the front door. One of them was definitely my mom, but the other was deeper. A man's voice that sounded vaguely familiar. We both turned as footsteps approached the kitchen. My mom appeared in the doorway looking flustered. And guess who was behind her? My dad. I hadn't seen him in almost 8 months. He lived in Ohio now with his new wife and their baby. He wasn't supposed to visit until summer, but here he was, standing awkwardly in our kitchen in his work clothes, like he'd come straight from the office. "Dad?" I managed, my voice croaky from both the flu and shock. "Hey, kiddo," he said, giving me a little wave. "Heard you were sick." I looked at my mom questioningly. She shook her head slightly, looking as confused as I felt. "I got a call that you were in the hospital," my dad continued, frowning. "Something about severe dehydration from the flu? But you're clearly not in the hospital." We all turned to look at Vanessa, who had gone very pale. "I might have called him," she admitted in a small voice. "I was worried about Lily." My dad ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I'd almost forgotten about. "So, you're not critically ill? The call made it sound like you were on death's door, Lily." "I had the flu," I said. "I'm fine now." My mom turned to Vanessa, her voice deadly calm. "You called Lily's father and told him she was hospitalized? Do you understand how serious that is?" Vanessa shrugged, not meeting anyone's eyes. My dad looked between all of us, clearly sensing the tension. "Maybe I should come back another time?" he suggested. My mom shook her head. "Actually, Joseph, could you stay for a bit? We need to talk about some things happening with the girls." The next hour was one of the weirdest of my life. We all sat in the living room while I explained everything Vanessa had done, from the laxatives to the Instagram account. My dad got more and more serious looking, occasionally glancing at my mom like they were having some silent parent conversation. When I finished, there was a long silence. Finally, my dad cleared his throat. "I think," he said slowly, "that this isn't a good living situation for either of you girls right now." My heart sank. Was I going to be sent away? It wasn't fair. I hadn't done anything wrong. "I agree," my mom said, surprising me. "Vanessa needs more supervision than I can provide while working full-time." Vanessa's head snapped up. "What does that mean?" My mom took a deep breath. "It means I'm calling your grandmother tonight. You'll be going to stay with her until your mother is ready to come home." "What? You can't do that!" Vanessa shrieked, jumping to her feet. "My mom left me with you. You can't just ship me off to Grandma's boring farm." "I'm not shipping you off," my mom said calmly. "I'm finding you a more appropriate place to stay while your mother recovers. A place with full-time adult supervision." Vanessa turned to my dad, her eyes suddenly wide and pleading. "Mr. Parker, please, tell her she can't do this. My mom will be so upset." My dad looked uncomfortable but shook his head. "This isn't my decision to make, Vanessa. But for what it's worth, I think Lisa's right. You need more support than she can give you right now." Vanessa's fake tears turned to rage in an instant. She stomped her foot and pointed at me. "This is all your fault. You turned them against me. I hate you." She stormed off to the guest room and slammed the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. My parents exchanged a look. "I'll make the call," my mom said quietly. The next few days were tense. Vanessa refused to come out of the guest room except for meals, where she sat in stony silence. Her grandmother was coming on Saturday to pick her up, and apparently, she was not happy about the situation. On Friday afternoon, I came home from school to find the house weirdly quiet. My mom was still at work, and Vanessa should have been home already. I called out, but no one answered. Figuring she was just giving me the silent treatment, I headed upstairs to my room. The moment I opened my door, I knew something was wrong. My closet door was open, and clothes were strewn everywhere. My desk had been ransacked, drawers pulled out, and papers scattered across the floor. But the worst part? My folder of evidence against Vanessa, the texts, the diary pages, everything, was gone. I frantically searched everywhere, but it had vanished. So had my iPod with all the photos. Even my hidden camera was missing from its spot on the bookshelf. I heard the front door open downstairs and ran to the top of the stairs. It was Vanessa, carrying a bulging garbage bag. "Where is it?" I demanded. "What did you do with my stuff?" She smiled sweetly up at me. "What stuff?" "I have no idea what you're talking about." "My folder, my evidence, my camera." I was practically screaming now. "I know you took it." Vanessa shrugged, still smiling. "Prove it." And that was the problem. Without my evidence, I couldn't prove anything. It would be my word against hers, again. "Your mom already called my grandma," Vanessa said, heading for the stairs. "So I guess you won. But good luck ever making anyone believe you again." I watched her saunter up the stairs and into the guest room, the garbage bag slung over her shoulder. I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly what was in that bag, and what was about to happen to it. I needed to act fast. I called David, hoping he still had the lunchroom video on his phone. He did, but that was just one small piece of evidence. I needed more, and I needed it before Vanessa's grandma arrived tomorrow. That night at dinner, Vanessa was weirdly cheerful, chatting with my mom about how excited she was to see her grandma. My mom seemed relieved by the change in attitude, but I knew better. Vanessa thought she'd won. After dinner, I waited until everyone was occupied. My mom on a work call, Vanessa in the shower, and snuck into the guest room. I had to find that garbage bag before she destroyed everything. It wasn't in the closet or under the bed. I was about to give up when I noticed the window was open slightly, despite it being freezing outside. I looked out and saw the edge of something black poking out from behind the gutter, the garbage bag. She'd hidden it on the small roof section outside her window. I leaned out as far as I dared, straining to reach it, but it was just beyond my fingertips. "What are you doing in my room?" I nearly fell out the window in surprise. Vanessa was standing in the doorway, her hair wrapped in a towel, glaring at me. "Nothing," I said quickly, pulling myself back inside. "I was just looking for my hairbrush. I thought you might have borrowed it." "Right," she said sarcastically. "Get out." I left, but not before noticing her phone sitting on the nightstand, unlocked. An idea started forming in my head. I might have lost my original evidence, but maybe I could get something even better. The next morning was chaos. Vanessa's grandma was coming at noon, and there was a flurry of last-minute packing and preparations. I kept my head down, pretending to be busy with homework while watching Vanessa out of the corner of my eye. Around 11:30, my opportunity came. Vanessa went to take one last shower, and my mom was outside bringing in the garbage cans. I darted into the guest room and grabbed Vanessa's phone. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type, but I managed to open her messages and start scrolling. There were dozens of texts to her friends about me, each one worse than the last. I forwarded as many as I could to my own number before I heard the shower turn off. I quickly put the phone back exactly where I'd found it and slipped out of the room. My own phone was buzzing nonstop as the messages came through. There were so many. Screenshots of the Instagram account she'd made about me, plans to put laxatives in my food, even a message where she bragged about trashing my room. 10 minutes later, a car pulled into our driveway. Vanessa's grandma had arrived. She was a stern-looking woman with silver hair pulled into a tight bun. She barely smiled as my mom greeted her at the door. Vanessa came downstairs with her suitcase, looking like she was going to a funeral. When she saw her grandma, she put on a big fake smile and ran to hug her. "Oh, Grandma, I've missed you so much," she gushed. Her grandma patted her back awkwardly. "Hello, Vanessa. Are you ready to go?" I stayed in the background, not wanting to make a scene, but as they were about to leave, I couldn't help myself. I stepped forward, phone in hand. "Mrs. Peterson?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Before you go, there's something you should see." Vanessa's eyes widened in panic. "We need to go, Grandma. We'll miss our flight." "There's no rush," her grandma said, looking at me curiously. "What is it, dear?" I handed her my phone, open to the messages Vanessa had sent about me. "I thought you should know what Vanessa's been doing while she's been staying here." Mrs. Peterson took the phone and began scrolling, her expression growing darker by the second. Vanessa tried to snatch the phone away, but her grandma held it out of reach. "Vanessa Christine Peterson," she said in a voice that could have frozen lava. "What is the meaning of this?" Vanessa's face crumbled. "They're lying. They're all against me because my mom's in rehab. They're trying to make me look bad." Her grandma continued scrolling, shaking her head. "These are from your phone, Vanessa. To your friends." She looked up at my mom. "Mrs. Parker, I owe you an apology. It seems my granddaughter has been less than honest about her situation here." My mom nodded, putting her arm around my shoulders. "It's been a difficult time for everyone." Vanessa was crying now, real tears this time. "I'm sorry, okay? I didn't mean it. I was just upset about my mom." Her grandma handed my phone back to me with a grim smile. "Thank you for bringing this to my attention, Lily. Rest assured, Vanessa will have plenty of time to reflect on her actions at my house. There's no internet, and the nearest neighbor is 3 miles away." As they walked to the car, I heard Vanessa's grandma saying something about consequences and learning respect. Vanessa threw one last venomous look over her shoulder at me before getting into the car, and just like that, she was gone. My mom closed the front door and leaned against it with a huge sigh. "Well," she said finally, "that was intense." I nodded, suddenly feeling exhausted. "Yeah." She pulled me into a hug, squeezing me tightly. "I'm so sorry I didn't believe you sooner, Lily. I should have listened to you from the beginning." "It's okay," I said, and surprisingly, I meant it. It wasn't entirely okay yet, but it would be. That night, my dad came over again, this time planned. We ordered pizza and watched a movie together, just the 3 of us. It was almost like old times, except not really, but it was nice. As I was getting ready for bed, my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. "This isn't over, Lily Parker. Enjoy your victory while it lasts." I stared at it for a long moment before deleting it. Maybe Vanessa was right. Maybe this wasn't over. But I wasn't the same pushover I had been 3 weeks ago. If she wanted to continue this war when she eventually came back, she'd find I was ready. But for now, I had my room back, my life back, and most importantly, my mom back on my side. And after everything that had happened, that felt like enough of a win for me. I had no idea if I'd hear from Vanessa again after that text. Part of me hoped she'd stay at her grandma's farm forever, milking cows and picking vegetables and whatever else people do on farms, but I'm not that lucky. 2 weeks after Vanessa left, I was finally starting to feel normal again. My room was back to its usual mess, but like, my mess, not someone deliberately trashed it mess. I was doing okay in school, and Jessica and I were hanging out almost every day. Then I got another text from that same unknown number. "Mom's coming home next week. Guess who's coming with her?" My stomach did this weird flip-flop thing. I showed the text to my mom, who frowned and called Mrs. Peterson, Vanessa's mom, right away. Turns out she really was coming home, but Vanessa was supposed to stay with her grandma for another month. My mom and Mrs. Peterson talked for like half an hour, and when she hung up, she looked relieved. Vanessa's mom agrees she should stay with her grandmother, she told me. She's making really good progress in rehab and doesn't want to risk any setbacks. I should have felt better, but something still felt off. Vanessa wasn't the type to give up so easily, and I was right to worry. The next day when I got home from school, there was a package on our doorstep with my name on it, no return address. I brought it inside and carefully opened it, half expecting a glitter bomb or something equally annoying. Instead, I found a plain white envelope and a cheap plastic bracelet, identical to the friendship bracelet Jessica had given me last year that went missing during Vanessa's stay. The note inside simply read, "I know where you sleep." Okay, so maybe that sounds super dramatic written out like that. But with Vanessa, I knew it wasn't just some empty threat. I showed my mom, who immediately called the police. They came over, looked at everything, and told us they couldn't really do anything since it wasn't an explicit threat. But they took the package and said they'd keep it on file. That night, I barely slept. I kept imagining Vanessa somehow sneaking into our house, standing over my bed with scissors or something. I ended up pushing my dresser in front of my door before finally falling asleep around 3 a.m. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. Was she just trying to mess with my head? It was working if that was the goal. A week passed with nothing. Then, on Tuesday, I walked into my classroom and froze. There, sitting in the back row like she'd never left, was Vanessa. Our eyes met, and she gave me this super fake smile and little finger wave. I felt like I was going to throw up. During lunch, I cornered our homeroom teacher, Mr. Davies, and asked him what was going on. Vanessa's mother requested she be allowed to finish out the school year here, he explained. Something about continuity in education. I understood she wouldn't be returning to your home, though. I nodded numbly and walked away. At least she wasn't living with us again. That was something. I managed to avoid her for most of the day, but as I was walking to my last class, she suddenly appeared beside me. "Miss me?" she asked, her voice sickly sweet. "Not even a little," I replied, walking faster. "That's not very nice," she said, keeping pace with me, "especially after I brought you a present." I stopped walking. "What are you talking about?" She just smiled and continued down the hall. "You'll see." When I got home that afternoon, I checked every inch of my room, looking for whatever present she might have left. I found nothing, which somehow made it worse. Was she bluffing, or had I just not found it yet? I told my mom about seeing Vanessa at school. She looked worried but tried to reassure me. She can't hurt you anymore, Lily. Everyone knows what she did now, and she's living with her mom, not us. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Vanessa wasn't done with me yet, and the next day at school proved me right. When I opened my locker before first period, dozens of small paper scraps fluttered out onto the floor. I bent down to pick one up and felt my blood run cold. It was a tiny piece of a photograph. My photograph. The one of me and my dad from last Christmas that I kept on my desk. Someone had cut it into confetti-sized pieces. I looked up and saw Vanessa watching from down the hall, that same smug smile on her face. I didn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me upset. I just calmly collected all the pieces I could find and put them in my backpack. But inside, I was freaking out. How had she gotten that photo? Had she been in our house again? Or had she taken it before she left? That afternoon, I went to Jessica's house instead of going straight home. I needed to figure out what to do. Vanessa clearly wasn't going to leave me alone. You need to go nuclear, Jessica said after I explained everything. Like, full-on mutually assured destruction. What does that even mean? I asked, flopping back on her bed. It means you need dirt on her that's so bad she'll be too scared to ever mess with you again, Jessica explained like it was obvious. I already tried that, I reminded her. I had tons of evidence and she still came back for more. Jessica tapped her chin thoughtfully. What if we set a trap? The plan we hatched was simple. Make Vanessa think I had something she desperately wanted, then catch her in the act of trying to steal it. We'd need help though. I called David, who was totally on board. His parents had recently installed security cameras around their house, and he'd figured out how to access the footage remotely. He loaned me 2 small wireless cameras to hide in my room. Next, I needed bait. What would Vanessa want badly enough to break into my house? I thought about it all night before the answer hit me. Her diary. She'd taken mine when she left, but what if she thought I had hers? The next day at school, I made sure Vanessa overheard me talking to Jessica about finding Vanessa's real diary, hidden in the guest room after she left. I didn't look at her directly, but I could practically feel her panic from across the cafeteria. When I got home, I set up David's cameras, one pointed at my window, the other at my door. Then I created a fake diary with a bunch of blank pages and one entry at the beginning that said, "If you're reading this, Vanessa, smile for the camera." I put it in my desk drawer, slightly visible if someone was really looking, then headed to Jessica's for a sleepover. My mom was working late, so the house would be empty for a few hours. Perfect bait. Around 8 p.m., my phone buzzed with an alert from the camera app. Someone was in my room. Jessica and I huddled over my phone, watching in real time as Vanessa climbed through my window. She was wearing all black like some kind of cartoon burglar. If I wasn't so freaked out, I might have laughed. We watched as she went straight to my desk and started rummaging through the drawers. When she found the fake diary, she quickly flipped it open. I wish I could have seen her face when she read that first page. She dropped it like it was on fire and looked around frantically, finally spotting one of the cameras. She bolted back to the window and disappeared. The whole thing took less than 2 minutes. "We got her!" Jessica squealed, high-fiving me. "Breaking and entering. That's like an actual crime." I immediately called my mom, who called the police. By the time I got home, 2 officers were taking statements in our living room. They watched the footage and confirmed it was definitely grounds for charges. "We'll need to speak with the girl and her mother," one of the officers said. "Given her age, this will likely be handled in juvenile court, but it's still very serious." I nodded, feeling weirdly calm. It wasn't about revenge anymore. I just wanted Vanessa to get the help she obviously needed and to leave me alone. The next day at school, Vanessa wasn't there. Or the day after that. By Friday, rumors were flying. Everything from she'd been arrested to she'd moved to Canada. The truth came out the following Monday when our principal made an announcement that Vanessa had withdrawn from school to focus on her health. Mrs. Peterson called my mom that evening to apologize. Apparently, Vanessa had been lying to her about everything, claiming she was staying with friends when she was actually sneaking out to mess with me. After the break-in incident, they decided Vanessa needed more intensive help than her mom could provide. She was being sent to a boarding school in Vermont that specialized in troubled teens. "So she's just gone?" I asked when my mom told me. Part of me couldn't believe it was really over. "For now," my mom said. "The court gave her the option of the boarding school or juvenile detention. She'll be there at least until the end of the school year." I should have felt 100% relieved, but I still had this nagging worry that somehow, someday, Vanessa would find a way to get back at me. My mom must have noticed my expression. "You know," she said, sitting next to me on the couch, "I've been thinking about what happened with Vanessa, about why I didn't listen to you sooner." I shrugged. "You wanted to help her mom. I get it. That's part of it," she admitted. "But I also think I was trying so hard to be the perfect single mom that I ignored what was right in front of me. I'm really sorry, Lily." I leaned against her shoulder. "It's okay. We figured it out eventually." And we had. It took longer than it should have, but my mom had finally seen Vanessa for who she really was. And more importantly, she had believed me. The rest of the school year was pretty normal. I hung out with Jessica and David, got decent grades, and slowly stopped checking under my bed every night. My dad even drove up for my end-of-year choir concert, which was kind of a big deal since he usually only visited on scheduled weekends. Summer came, and I mostly forgot about Vanessa. I spent 3 weeks at camp, went on a road trip with my mom to visit my grandparents, and even had a 2-day Harry Potter movie marathon with Jessica, where we barely slept and ate nothing but popcorn and candy. It was August when I finally heard from Vanessa again, but it wasn't at all what I expected. The letter arrived with no return address, just my name written in handwriting I recognized immediately. Inside was a single page. "Lily, I'm supposed to write this as part of my therapy, so here it is. I'm sorry for what I did to you. It wasn't about you, really. I was angry at my mom and took it out on you because you were there. That doesn't make it okay. I won't be coming back to our school. My mom is moving us to Colorado to be closer to my aunt. I hope things are good for you." It wasn't exactly a heartfelt apology, but it was something. I showed it to my mom, who read it carefully before handing it back. Do you think she means it? I asked. My mom considered for a moment. I think it's a start. People can change, especially kids, but they have to want to. I folded the letter and put it in my desk drawer, not because I wanted to keep it, but because it felt like closing a chapter. Vanessa had been this huge, scary thing in my life for months, and now she was just a girl who made bad choices. When school started again in September, I was almost 13 and starting 7th grade. The hallways felt different somehow, safer. I had my friends, my mom had my back, and even my dad was making more of an effort to be around. I sometimes think about what I would tell my past self if I could go back to when this all started. I'd probably say that standing up for yourself isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. That adults don't always get things right the first time, but good ones will listen eventually. And maybe most importantly, that even the worst bullies are just people with their own problems. But mostly, I'd tell myself that it gets better. Not because the world changes, but because you do. As for Vanessa, I don't know if she ever really changed, or if that letter was just something she had to write for therapy. I hope she's doing better now, somewhere in Colorado with her mom. Not because I forgive her for what she did. I'm not sure I ever will completely, but because I don't want to carry that anger around anymore. It's been almost a year since everything happened, and honestly, life is pretty good now. I'm still me, still Lily Parker, just a little stronger than before.